This is actually my favourite one, and I keep talking about this to everyone. I think it's my favourite just because I see so much of my own work in it and what I like. I like drawing faces and I like drawing like portraits, and this is exactly that. Like, I can see myself in, well, these two people. I see myself like when I wrap my hair, when I have my afro out. So if I saw this up, I'd probably feel like, yeah, like this is talking to me. I want to go to this. My name is Joy Miessi. I was born in London and I've grown up in Camden Town. I went to a very diverse school, but I didn't know that many people that were like me. In 1982, a group of lesbians formed the Camden Lesbian Centre. 2 years later, the Black Lesbian Group was formed and they merged, but the BLG also operated separately. Despite hostility from the local community, they found a space on Phoenix Road in Camden. I came across the CLC and BLG through an independent project I was working on. And through that, I found out about Glasgow Women's Library. I was going through the archives and then saw all this stuff on my local area and all these groups that were existing in like Camden Town.
Interesting that we don't kind of wait around when there's a need and a desire to do something. You just do it. It's not like, oh, how can we start and get funding and be paid? And, you know, it's like none of that. It's all unpaid. It's all like just out of a kind of passion and a need.
Volunteering, isn't it?
Yeah, all volunteering, yeah. So
I think people realise that there's a need for it, and if someone's not going to make it, they make it themselves. I really like that kind of community.
Yeah.
So. The CLC and BLG was the UK's only dedicated space for lesbians for almost a decade. This was at a time at which there was active institutional hostility, such as Section 28, which stated that a local authority shall not intentionally promote homosexuality or publish material with the intention of promoting homosexuality. This was only repealed in the early 2000s.
I would like to expand things, and having the resources to do that really would be good. So music is here. Around here are some...
There's an essay online by a guy who was an archivist in the 70s, and he wrote about his experiences starting his first week at work in the city archives here in Scotland. And he said that his boss, his line manager, gave him 2 pieces of advice in the first week. And the first thing was, don't waste time on women's papers.
Oh, wow.
And the second thing was, and when you destroy things, make sure they are absolutely destroyed, lest historians make a fuss about it in the future, you know. So those messages are really, you know, kind of clear.
I'd say my whole work is like an archive of my life. The people around me, my family, my life, everyday situations, conversations. It's basically a diary to me. I've had actually someone come up to me and be like, oh, this reminds me of me, like when I had my hair like this. I don't know, it's so sweet to see that.
This is one of the boxes from the Camden collection, and as you can see there are banks of boxes from the Camden collection. This is just one of them.
So many. It feels almost like unreal to be going through all this stuff, because it's like, yeah, we've like always been here making like events and stuff, this history of like people who were like me and lived in the same area, you know, and doing all this kind of stuff, but yet all their history's been like erased, you know, not like completely erased, but it's like, it feels like it's hidden and out of reach. You know, the fact that we have to come all the way here as well to come and see it, but it's nice that it's being kept and preserved. What made you think that this lesbian archive was worth saving?
Oh my God, I think it's kind of a really fundamental thing around saving histories generally. So as a lesbian, as an activist, a realisation that where are real lived experiences reflected back to us? I don't feel that they are reflected back to us in mainstream kind of museums or archives and so on. You know, it's hard to get those references, I think. So of all the history that we've saved that tells our stories, as lesbians or LGBT people, you know, when we think about what's saved, then it breaks my heart to think about what hasn't been saved and what's been lost, and all our stories and all our experiences in a context where we've been told that our lives are worthless on lots of different levels. So I think it's a really political act to want to save these archives.
So this piece was basically about the gangs matrix, which is a database of people who are considered to be affiliated with gangs. Overwhelming amount of the names on that list are young black boys. So this piece is about them, and the last line is about imagining a different world where they don't have to go through that and where they can feel fully themselves without being stereotyped. So I draw inspiration from posters and also from writers and poets. And one of my favorites is Zora Neale Hurston, who wrote The Eyes Were Watching God. And it's actually one of the very first few pages, but in it, when talking about men and women, she says that the dream is the truth. And even though I don't think this is how it was meant to be interpreted, I've always seen it as me imagining another self, another version of myself, and imagining that in that dream or in that parallel universe, I am fully comfortable being me, being as fluid as can be, and being as relaxed as can be, and being my truth.